Welcome back. If you've been watching the coverage of Hurricane Harvey's aftermath, you may have seen President Donald Trump touring affected areas yesterday. Well, there was a lot of talk about what he was wearing, particularly his hat. It's one that's currently for sale for $40 on Trump's campaign website. So is there a conflict here? Is it that big of a deal? Joining us now to discuss, we welcome our legal contributor, attorney Seth Pajcic. Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so first off, we wanted to get your input on the price gouging thing. What is the penalty, the legal penalty for price gouging?
In Texas, it's you can be fined up to $25,000 per incident.
Wow.
So,
and I hope they get them.
Exactly. So what you're talking about with Best Buy and the bottled water.
And the gas. No, the gas especially.
Yes.
$25,000 per incident. In Florida, if this had happened in Florida, it's $1,000 per incident up to $25,000 per day. So there are penalties, and if you are going to do this, you're going to take advantage of people in a time of need. There are penalties.
All right. Well, we did want to talk to you about obviously the President's Trump hat and what he was wearing. Are there any laws or ethical rules for wearing the hat in this kind of situation?
No, there's no ethical prohibitions against it, other than basic decency, I would say.
Poor taste.
Yeah, you're putting on a $40 hat that you're selling for $40 on your website, and you're wearing it around all the time. And I think actually there should be some pictures of other presidents that have gone to different disaster areas that they're not wearing hats promoting their campaigns or promoting something they're trying to sell.
If you see one, it's usually like the presidential seal on
So here's President Clinton, for example. This is him. This is President Obama. And then, to be fair, we also have pictures of, there should be both President Bush, there's President Trump. And then here's President George H.W. Bush. That's actually in Florida after Hurricane Andrew again. And then there's President George W. Bush. These are all guys, and obviously what they're doing here is they're meeting with the victims of these storms. And I think of all the images we saw yesterday of President Trump, I think there was one image of him meeting with a victim, consoling a victim. But getting back to the point of the hat, again, all those presidents, the Republicans, Democrat alike, they were not trying to profit or raise funds off of a tragedy.
Right.
So while there may be no ethical or legal prohibitions against it, again, I think it goes back to a question of basic decency.
How does this continue to happen?
Well, he was elected president. So, and I think until eventually, maybe we'll get to the point where he crosses a certain boundary that people just get fed up with it.
Is there not an ethical law or rule to make it stop?
Oh my God!
Right?
I've been looking at that one down the road.
I feel like giving it more time, like talking about, because a lot of people were also poking fun at Melania Trump wearing stilettos instead of galoshes or some kind of sneakers or something. I feel like I'm just so exhausted talking about the dumb things they do at this point. Should we just not?
That's a different topic, and I think that should be what the First Lady's wearing is a totally different topic than our subject, and it shouldn't be brought up as opposed to the president wearing a hat that he's selling for $40 on his website.
Right.
So earlier this year, Kellyanne Conway got a little wrist slapping because she was promoting Ivanka's line.
Yes.
Is that something that can happen here? Could he get reprimanded?
No, well, he's the president. So a lot of these ethical rules that do apply if you're a government employee do not apply to the president or the vice president. So he can go out, he actually could have sat out there and say, buy my hat. Go to my website, buy my hat. And there's no...
And that's okay?
There's no reprimand because he is the president.
Well,
these ethical rules don't apply to him.
Well, someone was looking at his tweets as well of what was going on over the weekend, and he seems to still be promoting campaigning over what the victims are going through. Like he's, you know, maybe saying great things about what the government's doing on the ground, but it's nothing about what the people are actually experiencing and what he is trying to do to help them in any way.
It's almost like his tweets to me are almost like a little kid in all of a storm. This is a huge storm. Wow. It's a record-breaking storm.
What a turnout.
Yeah, and there's nothing.
Master of the obvious.
Yeah, there's nothing in there. Him talking about what a turnout it was for his rally yesterday.
It's so obvious we can tell.
Not a rally, but for the people who turned out.
I think what happens with Texas in the next election is really going to say, you know, if people took notice of what happened in this storm, so, you know.
Yes. Well, you know, and again, the federal government is doing a good job responding to it, but I think at the same time, people expect a more empathetic response from their president.
Well, let's move on to something else that we wanted to talk to you about surrounding Trump. Following his pardon of Sheriff Joe Arpaio, attorneys for Arpaio are now pushing to vacate Arpaio's conviction. The judge has scheduled a hearing on this matter. Is that normal? He's been pardoned. Yeah,
well, pardon, though, is not, it's different than having your record expunged. So you've been pardoned for a crime, but that does not mean that you're still not going to have that crime on your record. You can still have that crime on your record. You're still convicted of that crime. It's just you're not going to be sentenced for it, or nothing else will happen. And typically speaking, the pardons happen, of course, after someone's been sentenced, they've been in jail, and that gets them out of jail. In this instance, he hasn't been sentenced yet. So what the judge is doing is saying, well, wait a minute. Arpaio's asking to get the conviction thrown out. The judge said, no, let's have a hearing about this. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Justice Department attorneys do. They have to get up there as officers of the court, and what are they going to argue as to whether or not this conviction that they argued for in the first place, whether or not it should be thrown out, even though the president has pardoned him. So he could still have a criminal record, even though he was pardoned.
So is it normal to have a hearing after a pardon?
Yeah, well, that's there. Sheriff Joe's attorneys are asking for it, but they're asking for the conviction to get thrown out.
Oh, they want to completely erase it all.
Yes.
How likely is it that they'll be successful at expunging his record?
He'll get it.
Well, I don't know. This judge, I don't know if this judge was going to be willing to grant that. There's nothing, just because the president pardoned him, does not mean that the judge has to remove the conviction.
Is this the same judge that?
Yeah. It's the same judge. It's the same judge, Judge Susan Bolton. It's the same judge that presided over his trial. So yes.
Now, we'd like to think, being an unbiased judge, she might not be holding out a grudge against Sheriff Arpaio at this point, but considering she's already convicted of him, or convicted him of the crime, there's a good chance that she's still going to feel the same way.
And I think she wants to hear what the legal arguments are, what the Justice Department's going to say, what their attorneys are going to say. I would like to see. It's going to be very interesting to hear what the attorneys from the Justice Department are going to say.
Yeah.
What would you say is one of the biggest misconceptions about pardons?
Well, that your record's expunged, just so people think, that your record's expunged. It's not. You still have that criminal conviction on your record.
So what's the big deal? I mean,
well, it's that, but you do have your civil rights restored, so you can vote.
Okay.
But you still have that conviction on your record.
Can he get his job back?
No, he lost his last election.
Okay.
So he's.
Oh, that's right.
He's an elected figure.
That's right.
Yeah.
But he could run again if because even though he's. So if you wanted to run for sheriff, you can't run if you most likely have been convicted.
Oh, you could run. Yeah, he could run.
But there's no law against him getting elected if he's been convicted of a felony or anything?
No, well, he wasn't a felony.
Oh, no, not a felony, sorry. But if he's been convicted of any crime like that, it doesn't keep you from being elected.
No, he could be elected.
Or holding any other kind of public office.
He could be elected.
This is insane. I know. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of. As far as I know, he can be elected again.
All right. Well, we'll see obviously how this plays out. Thank you, Seth Pajcic, as always. And we'd like to thank our legal contributor, Seth Pajcic of the law firm Pajcic & Pajcic. And still to come, another preview of the upcoming TEDx Jacksonville. Hear his thoughts on what we should be doing to protect our environment when we come back.